I was gonna keep going, and then I looked at you and I was like, "No." Anyway, hi, welcome to Steph and Anja's Media Review, where we review literally anything.
Yep.
Mostly TV shows is what it seems like.
At least these
Um,
last few weeks.
exactly. You know what? TV shows, movies, pretty easy as it turns out.
It's true.
Um,
Very, very bite-sized and edible for us.
indeed, indeed. I'm Steph.
And I'm Anya, and for context, I
Yes.
was the police box moving through time,
Yeah.
which
In
you
case
couldn't
you're
see if you're listening.
I was gonna say, in case you are listening only on Spotify, um, I don't even really know how to describe what you were doing, Anya. Anya had her hands up. She was, like, moving in a circle. I don't know.
I was teleporting, going through time. That's Doctor
Picture,
Who,
if you
right?
will picture, if you will, the police box moving through time and space.
Yeah,
That's what Anya was doing,
thank you.
obviously. I got
Wasn't
it.
it
I saw the
wasn't it obvious, guys?
Now, in case you didn't read the title and couldn't tell by what we were just talking about, today we are reviewing Doctor Who, which we're not reviewing all of it. Obviously, it's a very big beast, but we are reviewing the most recent season that ran on Disney Plus. So we thought this kind of was like a bit of a good jumping off point, especially because that's kind of the purpose of this season as well, is to kind of cover people who may not really have been able to watch Doctor Who in the past. They now kind of on Disney Plus. So I guess to give some context, I have been an avid watcher of Doctor Who since 2012, 2013, 2012. So that's like Matt Smith, Matt Smith era of Doctor Who. So it's really weird for me to see him be like a very different character in like House of the Dragon. um,
Fair.
but I guess I've been a bit of a casual watcher as well. I kind of dip in and out a bit. I don't necessarily watch it every week like I know some people do. Wink, wink. You know who you are. Um, but I would say like I enjoy it. I feel like it's a very good like dip into sci-fi and the whole aspect of time. Anya, how about yourself? Have you ever done much with Doctor Who, or is this like your first time really looking into it?
My history with Doctor Who is pretty um null and void.
Yeah. Okay.
Never seen it. Obviously, I have heard of it. My uncle and my cousin, I know, have watched a lot of it. So
Hmm.
definitely, it's been in my life, not in my life, around my life.
Yeah.
um,
Via osmosis, it's been part of your life.
yes, but I did watch the first episode of the new season right before recording, so
Yeah.
I can't say I haven't watched it because I watched that episode and I
One
liked it.
episode.
I
Yeah.
did like
You
it,
may want
so.
so.
Mm.
But yeah, so I guess obviously, as I said, this is a very big beast. So thought I might give some very broad context in case you have no idea what Doctor Who is, and then kind of go a bit more into like the Disney Plus series and everything in between. So Anya, feel free to chime in. Have anything to say?
Sure
Always
thing.
keen to hear when you haven't watched like the show in question. I'm always eager to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
So basically, Doctor Who is a pretty old show. It started in 1963, so it's actually just celebrated its 60th anniversary, which is really cool. It's always run on the BBC. It's quintessential British television. Um, you hear a lot of people talk about how it's something they watch with their family, with their friends, kind of like a 7 p.m. show, something that you sit down and watch together. And it's kind of always been that, even from like the very first episode. Um, the plot, in case you weren't aware, it's about this alien called the Doctor, and they travel through time and space on their ship, which is called the TARDIS, Time and Relative Dimensions in Space, um, which it can technically change to match whatever like planet or environment they land in. But the Doctor's ship got stuck as a blue police box because they landed in 1960s. So that's at the very, very start. Like that's the first episode ever of Doctor Who. It's in black and white. It's a lot. Knowing where the show kind of heads. Um, and throughout the piece, the Doctor is, obviously traveling to different planets, different times. Um, it's a very much like adventure of the week type show. Um, Up until very recently, I feel like there may not have been like super plot heavy, I guess like overarching plot. I think there's always been stuff that's kind of been intertwined with the show, but generally speaking, at least from like my experience, you could usually pick up an episode, random episode, and just kind of understand what was happening. Not so much now, but again, and just as a heads up, it is another instance of streaming ruining television. So we will get there when we get there. So the Doctor always travels with usually human companions. Sometimes they might be other aliens. So the Doctor is what's called a Time Lord, not a human. And in the past, he's travelled with other Time Lords. He's had beef with other Time Lords. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, my understanding of what's called Classic Who, which is basically from 1963 up until the late 80s, I think. That's what's known as the Classic Who era, which covers the first Doctor through to the seventh Doctor. So basically, the way they keep the show going is when the Doctor is close to death, they can regenerate and basically take on a new face. Behind the scenes, it's kind of like a new actor comes in to replace the Doctor, just to make sure, like, if someone wants to leave this show, they can keep it going. But yeah, when I say like this was like the seventh Doctor or the 10th Doctor, like that's the 10th actor to have portrayed the Doctor.
I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
Because I wrote down all the Doctors as for my notes, guys.
Yeah.
And there might be the 15th Doctor, but there's Meta Crisis Doctor, the War Doctor, the Fugitive Doctor, Veil Yard.
Listen. We're still talking about Classic Who. We're not there yet.
I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah, I won't go into the Meta Crisis Doctor or any of those because it's far too complicated. And you know what? Watch the series is what I'm going to say. Watch the series, you'll find out. Yeah, you might also notice. While I'm at it, you might also notice that the 10th Doctor and the 14th Doctor, they're both David Tennant, right?
Yes, I did notice that.
So it turns out that the Doctor can, I guess, like have the same face come back, but they're technically different iterations of the Doctor.
I mean, is it because the audience loved the actor so much?
Potentially.
Potentially? Okay.
Yes. So just to backtrack a bit, first through seventh Doctors are called like the classic Doctors. It's in Classic Who era. Then, after years of budget cuts, the BBC cancels Doctor Who. And it doesn't officially come back until 2005. They do release a movie starring what they know as the eighth Doctor, Paul McGann. But that's not like in the same way that like it's TV. It was a movie. It was an actual movie. Maybe we'll cover it. Let us know. But generally, people see the series as picking up in 2005, which is a bit of a reboot for the series. It's very much like catered to a new audience. Obviously, it's been decades since Doctor Who was on the air. Um, and I forget, I don't have it in my notes, but I forget why they brought it back originally. But I guess they maybe thought it was just time to bring back such like a quintessential TV show. And it stars Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. Um, and the show is run by Russell T Davies, um, with Billie Piper as the companion Rose. And honestly, I haven't seen any of Classic Who, but my understanding is like, I think the first season of this new Who, it's so good. Like, genuinely, it's so good. I think it really holds up. Um, because I think that Rose, is played by Billie Piper, she's the human companion, but it is very centralized on her, and she feels like a real person. I think one of the issues that I found with Doctor Who, and fans of Doctor Who come at me, I guess. But I think in more recent series, it's had a bit of an issue where every companion needs to have something special. Where, like, it could be like one companion shows up in the Doctor's timeline and she's saving him all throughout his life. And then, there's one who's like, yeah, there's a few situations where, like, this character is so special with a capital S, where Rose is just like, she's a person. She's 19 years old. She works in a shop. Like,
I love Rose.
living her life. She's just living her life. And yeah, I think these early seasons, and that's why I'm like kind of keen to see where Doctor Who goes from here, because for some context as well, Russell T Davies left the show um, in about 2011, I think, 2011 or 2012. Um, but he's recently returned to be the showrunner of this new Disney Plus co-branded Doctor Who series. So obviously, I won't go into all the details of like what's happening, but basically, the Doctor regenerates a few times. Um, keeps fighting bigger and badder villains. Um, the show kind of takes a bit of a turn where it does feel like the MCU for a little bit. Um, and this is before Disney Plus, but that kind of brings us to where we are now in 2024, where again they're doing a bit of a reboot with Ncuti Gatwa, I think is his name, and Millie Gibson as the Doctor, and his companion Ruby Sunday specifically. So that's kind of the very broad context of Doctor Who. Obviously, forgive me, I've missed stuff, I know, but it's hard to encapsulate such a long running series in one go.
Yes, that's very big, but I think you did a good job, Steph, because it made sense for me.
Thank you, thank you. Do you have any questions on that, or any comments you'd like to make?
How have people dedicated so long to this show? Because it is very long.
I think the very sincere answer is that the show is kind of always changing. I mean,
Mm,
obviously, you have like different actors playing the Doctor. You have different companions basically every season of the show. So I think it's always feeling different, and I feel like you always get invested in new characters, especially when they're paired with like maybe a character who's kind of crossed over between seasons. At least that was why I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I think if it's well written, then you're probably gonna like it.
yeah,
That's
fair.
kind of why it dropped off for me, is because I did not like some of the writing choices uh, later down the line,
Fair
which
enough.
is kind of unfortunate because they had like there were some really good moments um, in like Peter Capaldi's season, which is the 12th Doctor. Then you obviously have like the first female doctor. Um, God, I forget her name. Oh my God, that's
Is
so
it
embarrassing.
Jodie
Jodie Whittaker.
Whittaker?
Yes,
Yeah, Whittaker.
yes, yes.
See, I
Um,
knew my notes would come in handy.
I just, yeah, I won't go too much into it, but I will say it's really unfortunate because I think she's a really good actor, but she was stuck with some really bad writing choices, which kind of sucks for like the first female doctor. But
Yeah.
from what I can tell so far, um, Ncuti is very, very good as the doctor. He's very charismatic. He's silly, but like knows when to take things seriously. Um, and I just think like he actually really does a good job of like being the doctor. Like I believe he's the doctor. Sometimes I'm just like, this actor is just the actor. I won't
Yeah.
say who, but um, but I think just to go back to your question as well, I think the fact that it is such a family show and it's kind of always been a family show, where it's like I don't know, like I remember I used to talk to my family about it, um, who watched it like as it was airing back in like the 70s. So
Mm.
I think the fact that it's something that's able to be like passed down almost like a not like a rite of passage, but something similar.
Yeah.
Because I want to say one of my little fun facts is again Peter Capaldi, who played the 12th Doctor. He used to run like a Doctor Who fan club, and he like wrote in like magazines, and he was all about Doctor Who as a kid. And then he obviously got cast as the Doctor when he was like a lot older. And I just think like I feel like that is a really good summary of like the longevity of being a fan of this show, and like I think it's a testament to how good the show can be.
Fair enough.
So yeah. So we'll now move into like I guess the Disney Plus specific portion of the episode. Um, so basically, to give some context, they were kind of in the process of restarting or reshuffling the show. So um, I think his name is Chris Chibnall. He used to be the showrunner for when Jodie Whittaker was the Doctor. And generally, what they do is if someone is leaving the as the Doctor, they may get another showrunner in, so it's kind of like a really fresh start. Um, so Chibnall left, Jodie Whittaker left, and Russell T Davies came back. Um,
Whoa.
and yeah, so they were planning this 60th anniversary, and I think I still don't really understand the why of it or how it came to happen. But obviously, Disney and the BBC came to have like a bit of a deal in place where Disney Plus is the international distributor of Doctor Who.
Mm.
So I will say, just on a personal note, I think the ABC got really robbed here because ABC used to be the Australian distributor of Doctor Who. It used to be all on iView, um, releasing, in conjunction with the actual episode on BBC. Used to be Saturday nights, like it was a lot. And now I have to watch it on Disney Plus like everyone else. Um, and from what I remember when it was first kind of announced, I remember that the ABC were like, this was like they were really blindsided by it.
Yeah.
Um, they've always had like such a strong partnership with the BBC on Doctor Who specifically. Like there used to be Daleks in the ABC offices. Um, used to be like TARDISes around. Like it was such a core part of their programming, and it was kind of just ripped away from them. So it's all sad, actually. Um, but I can honestly understand why, because I guess it's not just that Disney is the distributor of Doctor Who, they are actually working on it. It's not like they control the show. BBC still has like creative control over it, but it just means it gets a little more money from
Yeah.
Disney when it was just on the BBC. Um, so I actually found this kind of goes into like the marketing a little bit.
Yeah.
But I actually found like a press release for when this was first announced. Um, and this is like the full quote from Disney Plus. Under a shared creative vision, they will deliver this quintessentially British show to future generations on an unprecedented scale with Disney Plus as the exclusive home for new seasons of Doctor Who outside the UK and Ireland. The announcement, which was made this morning by the next Doctor Who, Ncuti Gatwa, during an appearance on Live with Kelly and Ryan, which I guess is like a morning show, TV show type thing,
Mhm.
begins a new collaboration between BBC and Disney branded television. Both partners have aligned under returning showrunner Russell T Davies' bold vision, who takes control of the TARDIS in 2023. He was responsible for Doctor Who's revival in 2005 and is credited with propelling the show into one of TV's biggest hits. So, obviously, the return of Russell T Davies is kind of I guess, the turning point for BBC and Disney Plus to come together. Um, and obviously that aligns with the 60th anniversaries, which I think Russell T Davies even described himself as a bit of like a soft launch of Disney Plus and Doctor Who, because that's where that started airing as well. So they did three like 60th anniversary specials, starring obviously David Tennant returning as the Doctor, um, as well as Catherine Tate, who's like she's a famous British comedian, but she played like a really like one of my favorite characters I think from the show, who had like a really tragic ending. Won't
Oh.
spoil it, but they don't walk it back, but it does take away some of like the levity of the situation um,
Oh.
in earlier seasons. So
Hmm.
Um, but it has them both reprising the roles from the earlier seasons. Um, so obviously, people were watching the show as it was airing on Disney Plus, and were very quick to point out that it looked like it did have a bit of a budget upgrade. Some of the I guess CGI and effects looked significantly better than they had in the previous seasons. Um, but people were very quick to ask, oh, does this mean they have creative control? Can like the BBC still veto like any ideas? Like, how does it work? And I still don't think it's very clear in my mind. But I think what's been made very apparent by Russell T Davies and like some of the other producers is that they still ultimately have creative control over the show. It's
Hmm.
not like Disney can step in and say, we don't approve of this, or like we don't want you to do this. Um, I will say it does. They've described it as wanting to turn the series into a global franchise,
Yeah.
which I personally find a little weird because I feel like in most places like you kind of know of Doctor Who. I
Yeah.
don't know how much more global it needs to be, but I digress.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the context of like the Disney Plus deal. Is that they released these three episodes, these three specials, and then in May they released the like the actual series after a Christmas special.
Hmm.
I love that they do Christmas specials. I think that's really cute.
I did want to also mention, like, although I've not really know much about the show,
Yeah, yeah, I love.
um, I did notice some things during my research that also,
Mm,
like, a new logo for the show came about
yes.
with, like, this Disney deal, and as well as the way this season is marketed, as
Mm,
it was marketed more towards season 1, like, following all these changes rather than, you know, whatever series it actually is.
yeah. I think that kind of ties into it being like a bit of a soft reboot. Is the
Mm,
idea is they obviously have access to a Disney Plus audience now, where they definitely didn't before. So I think marketing it as season one of the new Doctor Who versus like, yeah, as you said, like season whatever
yeah.
of New Who. I think that makes sense from a
Mm,
marketing standpoint.
yeah.
I will say, Doctor Who does love to do the thing of being like, yes, you don't need to understand anything that we've done previously. This is an entirely new plot. But what if we brought back a very classic Who villain, who appeared with the Fourth Doctor
Oh,
in the season finale?
oh my god.
But I'll get into that. But sorry,
Okay.
please continue.
No, that was the main thing I wanted to the main things I wanted to mention from
Okay,
the Disney Plus, like, acquisition, I guess.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess in terms of like the actual marketing, I think from what I've seen, like, and this is just purely anecdotal,
Mm.
is that there were a lot of concerns kind of in the lead up to the actual series. So not the specials, not the Christmas special, but the actual series. That there wasn't a lot of marketing, which I agree. I don't think I really saw anything until the show was actually like out. Um, but I feel like that tends to be the case in a lot of Disney Plus shows, where I feel like I don't know about them until they're
Mm.
out, and then Disney Plus like pushes them.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm just trying to find there is a quote just in regards to the soft launch
Mm.
and the big launch. Um because yeah, that was like a really big concern is that there was limited marketing. And
Yeah.
then this is what Russell T Davies, so showrunner, said in regards to like the specials. He said, if you're thinking, why haven't you seen great big adverts set across the world on Disney Plus now? That will come next year, so this year. They're going to do the big push, and that the anniversary episodes made more sense being run through the BBC um, rather than via like primarily being pushed as like a Disney Plus product, which
Mm.
I understand.
That
I
makes
think
sense.
because like, that was like a celebration of the BBC having Doctor Who,
Yeah.
and this new series is kind of like the acquired one, right?
Mm.
Um, but I just have a couple of notes as well on like the actual series. So what I saw and what I've seen in my research is that they did a lot of like visual media, visually paid media. So I mean, me personally, I got served like a lot of ads on TikTok. I
Same.
saw a lot of ads on, yeah, saw a lot of ads on Meta. I saw like TVCs. So obviously, it was a really big visual push.
Mm.
And obviously, they're also trying to hit that younger demo. So people who are using TikTok are statistically going to be younger audiences.
Yeah.
Um, like even Meta, like Instagram, you might get like the millennial, like Gen Z. Like it still skews younger.
Yeah.
Um, TVCs, a lot of the time it was also tied into just like broader, like Disney Plus as a brand rather than being Doctor Who specific,
Mm.
where it was like, these are what's airing on Disney Plus. You got Star Wars, you got Marvel, you got Doctor Who. Like it was a part of something bigger rather than its own thing, which I find interesting in of itself.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, I found that with like the TikTok ads as well, where it's like sometimes I just get like an ad for Disney Plus and Doctor Who would be part of it. Sometimes I just got an ad for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So found that quite interesting. And then I also saw that they did a lot organically. So what I found really interesting is that the Doctor Who YouTube channel has always been very active. Um, it's always like releasing teasers, clips, content, you name it, it's all on there. So as the show's been airing, first of all, they always do like a teaser at the end of the episode, which I really like. I'm like, yeah, get me to keep watching. I think that's a great idea. But then that releases concurrently onto the YouTube channel as well. Um, then they also do like behind the scenes. So they might do like a tour of the set or an interview with a cast member. Um, so it's like really engaged with fans. And I think that's kind of like a perfect encapsulation of Doctor Who as a whole, I think, where they're just like, it is all about the fans who have kept the show running.
Mm.
Um, so we're going to give them like some extra content. And I don't know, I don't feel like a lot of shows do like, I think I was talking to about this to someone recently where I was like, they don't do like bonus features anymore. And that's kind
No.
of what the Doctor Who YouTube channel is, where it's like a lot of like behind the scenes, like bonus footage and whatnot, which I think is really cool. And then they also do like they give context for like anything referenced that's I guess appeared previously. So going back to the aforementioned classic Who villain that appeared recently in the series,
Mhm.
they actually like put up like a clip of when that villain first appeared, so people could go to YouTube, look up. Um, I think it was called Pyramid of Mars, where this villain appeared. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And they like showed what the context was, so people didn't have to be confused. And I think it's just like that's a very nice thing to do for fans.
Yeah. That's really great.
Yeah. I love a studio that actually cares for like fans and like what the fans think. I
Same.
appreciate that.
Because then it shows it like proves that they're not doing it just for money. Like
Mm,
they're
mm.
doing it for the fans, which is
Like they actually care about the content that's being put out.
exactly.
Now, did you have anything else on the marketing that I may have missed? Yes.
I did find a few things that isn't like purely marketing, but it is
Mhm,
promotional. So I thought,
mhm.
let's add it in.
Yeah, of
So
course.
the cast and Russell T Davies went on a bunch of different interviews, and this included gracing the screens with Live with Callie and Ryan, The Graham Norton Show, GQ Magazine, Lorraine, whatever that is, The Michael Ball Show, a podcast called Table Manners. Um, so they definitely, and this was all during like 2022, 2023.
Mm,
So, but something I think about when I see that they've gone and done lots of interviews like this is like the average person doesn't watch these shows
mm.
and isn't across like all these magazines. So it's just like interesting. Like, I guess the show's still in production at that point, so they're not gonna push it crazily. But I'm like, it's interesting that they still choose these avenues when they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a little interesting. And then they did a lot of posting of promotional images of the costuming, which I thought was interesting. And they had scattered it like at the end of 2022, all throughout 2023, and into
Mhm,
2024, kept posting new images of different costumes that seemed to be from different eras. So it kept, I guess, the fans guessing of what was coming, possibly.
mm,
Um, and then they had like teaser videos, which they released. And then there was, I know this is only kind of partly related, but then there was that huge BBC concert, and I might pronounce this wrong, in Hoddenot Hall in Cardiff, where it was like Doctor Who at 60, a musical celebration. So I know it's not related to the series exactly, but that was another thing that happened close by to when the series was released. So I guess in tandem, it kind of goes together. And then on top of that, they have their Doctor Who magazine, which released a bunch of issues that promoted the new show. The Doctor Who website, which I'm sure had stuff on it. Um, Now, the interesting thing I found was the marketing team for Doctor Who with this series was using AI to generate texts for two promotional emails and mobile notifications that they had for the show. And that got a lot of major backlash from fans. Even though like all the texts used and stuff was like approved and verified by the marketing team, it just like I don't know, caused discomfort and distrust with the
yeah,
fans.
it didn't feel right, I think.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting too.
Mm,
Yeah. So that's
yeah.
that's what I found on the
Yeah, I love
marketing.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you can kind of see, like it's not like they did like anything super out of the ordinary
No.
or exciting, but I think it's important to note these kinds of things because that's kind of what most marketing campaigns are, where it's just
Mm.
like they do paid stuff, they do press tours.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was interesting that they did press tours being like a TV show. As
Yeah.
you said, like it's not in the grand scheme of things, it's not huge. Definitely in 2022, I don't think. it was that huge, to be
Yeah.
honest. Obviously, like, I don't think there was, like, a lot airing at the time anyway.
Yeah.
So, I think, yeah, that's a very interesting thing, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it for marketing.
So, I think it's time to go into our favorite section. I forgot the word.
Segment? Section? Yeah.
Yeah, of the podcast. It's time for fan fiction.
Fanfiction. So true.
Like,
Now, for those of you who have not listened or watched our podcast before, this is the part of our little show where one of us brings a fanfic to the table that relates to what we've just covered, even tangentially sometimes.
mm.
Um, and we'll read off the tags, the title, the summary, and just basically give like a bit of context as to what's happening in the fic.
Yes.
We have very high fanfic standards, so just keep that in mind. We
Yes.
don't bring fanfics to the table unless they're good.
I mean, if you go
Well,
to our very early
now
episodes, there were just full crack fics there. But we have progressed. We've grown.
we were trying some stuff. You'll have to forgive us.
Yeah, forgive all of our previous episodes. Just every new episode you listen to, forgive the old ones, because
Yeah, forget about it.
exactly.
You can look back and listen. I don't know. You do you. Anyway, so this fanfic is called A Song You Know's Begun, and it is by the author Sleepy Maddie. Now, I will say Doctor Who has a lot of fanfics, but currently not a lot on the most recent series, and it's actually quite difficult to filter because there's like a separate tag for Doctor Who 2024. It's all under the one Doctor Who tag. Um, so Anya, I don't know how much of this you're going to understand because a lot of it is like part of like the previous seasons. Some of it is from like episode 4 of the new season.
Oh no.
But I'll do to explain the context. So this stars the 15th Doctor, so Ncuti Gatwa, plus a character called Rogue, who I don't think we really know much about, but he's a very charismatic guy, who appears in the new season of Doctor Who, and they are shipping the two together, um, which you know what, it's shipped in the show. They do get a
Oh.
little kiss. So
Oh.
yes, it's canon.
Okay. I love a little
It's
canon
real.
romance sometimes. It's very odd for fan fiction, but we're here.
It's in one episode, so I don't know if I call it canon. Anyway, so the additional tags are I'm not tagging all of them. I'll explain what that means. But this features Doctors 9 to 13 plus 15, of course. This is one of those 5+1 fanfics, if anyone is familiar with that format. It's basically like, yeah, we'll get there. I'll explain in the summary. Um, another tag is I've had Rogue for 8 hours, but if anything happens to him, I'll kill everyone in this room and then myself. In brackets, I know something did happen to him, but I'm choosing to ignore that for now. I appreciate the vision that this author has. I love it.
I also love it. I don't know who Rogue is, but I love this author already.
So true. So the summary is as follows: 5 times Rogue almost meets the Doctor, and 1 time that he does. The author's note is I watched the episode and essentially blacked out until this was written. I have no idea how it happened or why, but enjoy, I guess. So basically, the summary pretty much sums up the concept of this fanfic. So basically, Rogue, he does a lot of odd jobs. I'll put it that way. Potentially, there is room for overlap with the Doctor, who's obviously traveling through time and space. So the first time that he almost meets the Doctor, it's with the 10th Doctor. So David Tennant, he almost meets him. and then he doesn't. Number 2 is, I believe, the 12th Doctor, so Peter Capaldi. And for context, he is a lecturer, a part-time lecturer
Hmm.
at a university. Um, Number 3, I believe, is Matt Smith, number 11. Number 4 is 9, I believe. Sorry, I'm just sussing it out. Just having a little read through. It's a good fanfic. I believe it is number 9, so that's Christopher Eccleston. Number 5 is the 13th Doctor, so Jodie Whittaker. And the +1 is when he actually does meet the 15th Doctor. Um, we love to see it. And he kind of realizes at the end that they're all the same person. They're all one and the same, ultimately. And he's like, whoa, that's
Damn.
crazy. Yeah. So just like a very cute, like, what if they almost met? Which
Yeah.
I do like the concept of,
It makes me
where
all
it's like they're
giggle.
all,
Makes me all
yeah, I know.
giddy.
It's like, oh my gosh, like they could have met so many times. Like the potential is so strong.
Yeah.
And
I'm
yet
I'm kind of like over this you little like talking over this fix makes me like can't really ship it now and I don't even know who Rogue is.
watching the show, he's in episode 4, I think.
Okay. I mean, that's only 3 episodes. That's not even, yeah, it's only
Yeah,
3 episodes away.
yeah,
I can make it to there.
you can get there. Exactly. But anyway, that's my little fanfic for this week.
Yay, I love it. So good. Well, I guess that leads us to our final thoughts. So,
It
Steph, I'll let
does.
you go first.
I think I made my final thoughts very clear. I'm sorry for just like really just talking my talk this whole podcast episode. Um, I like Doctor Who a lot. That's my final thought.
I love it.
How about
Um,
you?
I didn't know what to expect going into this. Watching the one episode I did, I was very intrigued, and I definitely think I might watch more now.
Mhm.
But I did find the marketing interesting. I thought the part about the AI was really interesting because
Yeah,
AI is such a growing like platform at the moment. Like it's just growing and growing and growing, and it's used in more and more stuff every day. And it's really interesting how like the fans of the show wanted to, I guess, keep, I don't know the word, the originality of the show. I
yeah,
guess is probably where it's coming from, and I think that was really interesting. And then yeah, just the way they promoted this show, I just was like, yeah, it's like interesting. I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
that's my final thought.
Love it, love it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I guess my little last hint and tidbit of info is that like I think in terms of I guess the Disney Plus acquisition, uh, it's definitely reaching a lot more people. Obviously, in Australia, it was just like on the ABC, and it was
Mm,
only really pushed on the ABC. So yeah, keen to see how it develops.
I think it will grow.
I hope so.
But that does lead this episode to an end. So I hope everyone you have all enjoyed this episode. Give us a like or a comment. Um, Subscribe if you'd like, or follow us on Spotify. We really appreciate the support. You can leave a comment and a Q&A and tell us whatever you want. We take recommendations. We take what you had for lunch. Anything really. Just leave us a comment. We also have an
Let us
Instagram and a TikTok. Stephanie's Me Review, or one word. We do post on Instagram at the links to the show, so at least follow us for that. We try and post some funny videos sometimes. Depends on how much time we have in the week,
yeah,
but we do get there sometimes. But yeah, I think that wraps us up.
yeah. And if there's nothing else, outro.